The Ferrari LaFerrari. It seems that in every edition of Mr. Luxury's Garage, I review an incredibly fast, exotic sports car made in Italy that any successful stockbroker named Todd would parade around with a custom license plate featuring a number of dollar signs. I'm afraid you all may begin to think of me as a brute that knows nothing but spending a lot of money, driving fast, and desperately trying to obtain some sort of Wolf of Wall Street reputation. Well, I assure you, this is far from the case. I happen to have enjoyed a vast array of luxury sedans, SUVs, and even some electric cars in my blessed and long driving career. But even with all of that being said, today's installment of Mr. Luxury's Garage will feature that of an Italian sports car that goes really, really fast. The Ferrari LaFerrari in the classic Ferrari red. This beast is one of my favorites. The Ferrari that so encapsulates all that the brand is that it gets double the namesake. I like to think that the naming of this amazing car is similar to the title track of an album. The title track, or the song that holds the same name as the album it appears on, is normally the bread and butter of the album. It's the track that the artist felt best represented the emotions and meanings that the album as a whole was trying to invoke. Or, quite frankly, it's the song that the artist felt would sell the most. And the Ferrari LaFerrari is just that. It is quintessential to the brand, the epitome of the red horse. It's fast, it's bold, it's beautiful. It's also, in typical Ferrari fashion, as impractical as it is expensive. Two adjectives that are often paired together in the world of exotic sports cars. This brings me to a story that I'd like to tell you all, if you would be so kind enough to listen. A few years ago, I took a trip to Monaco to attend a race. I wasn't going to be participating in the race, but I brought the gorgeous and powerful LaFerrari just to convince a few people that I was one of the drivers. Anyway, while I was attending some reception prior to the race, I caught up with an old friend. This friend came from a rather important family from Europe. Without boring you on the details, or naming any names, I somehow ended up with my old friend's sister in my LaFerrari on our way to eat some good old pasta. Well, the thing is, the streets on Monaco aren't all worthy of a high-speed race. Lots of the streets are brick or uneven stone, and the transition of one material to the next can be particularly uneven. The streets are beautiful and add tremendous character to the city, but they don't mix well with the low and pacey LaFerrari. So, as you might have guessed by now, I ended up getting stuck right outside a parking garage in Monaco, with the front end of my car touching the cement and suspending my front wheels off the ground. This, of course, caused a massive traffic jam, and the police were there trying to get the car moving without destroying my front bumper. Well, this process took a rather long time, which resulted in a lot of confusion, and to make a long story short, I ended up being accused of kidnapping a princess from a small country in Europe. So, that was certainly a bit of a scare, and I can't help but think of that every single time I step into my LaFerrari. And perhaps worst of all, I never got that noci pasta. But that's enough about my personal experiences with the car. Let's get into some details you might like to know about. As it turns out, the LaFerrari is a hybrid. In fact, the show Top Gear hails it as the most evocative hybrid hypercar in the world. Now, if we are being honest with each other, it's not really a hybrid. The car is still a V12, and it's still a thirsty mega car, but it does include electric nitrous, and this nitrous at high speeds adds an extra 40% fuel economy. So, yeah, totally a hybrid. The interior features a whole lot of carbon fiber. The seats are pads that are custom tailored to the owner's shape, and they rest on a carbon tube. The driving position is meant to mimic a race car. You sit low, not in a separate movable seat, because that can flex and contaminate the driver-machine connection. The pedal box moves on a sprung handle, and the steering wheel has a greater amount of movement than a series production Ferrari. That being said, it's fairly comfortable, and the visibility is great. The dash is completely digital and rather bare, with not much display besides your standard gauges. It's quite loud in the cabin, probably because the sound just bounces off all of that carbon. But does that really matter once you hear that V12 start singing? It's a great cockpit that gets straight to the point. It doesn't draw your eyes away away from the real treasure through the glass, traveling at 200 miles an hour. The car obviously drives well. It's been labeled as the best Ferrari ever made, and that wouldn't be for any other reason than driving. The brakes are racing grade. Active aerodynamics constantly juggle downforce as you make sharp turns. There's no buttons you need to press to lock into high-speed mode. The car cuts the crap, if you will, and does all the tedious stuff for you. All you have to be concerned about is driving fast. The agility is there too. Around turns, you can manage with just a simple gesture of the steering wheel without overthinking it. And of course, the power aids in the agility as well. If you want to change your trajectory in the turn a bit, just press your right foot down a little more, and your line will change. The transmission on the LaFerrari was a big win. They axed the Enzo's most hateful mechanized manual. In its place is a modified version of the F12's Getrag dual-clutch box. You can just pop it in automatic and pretend you're in a cruisy luxury sedan and just take a stroll through the town. It's that easy. The only difference would be the firm brake pedal with zero dead travel at the top, and the long throw of the throttle pedal, which, even on small openings, allows access to performance levels not entirely compatible with narrow modernese roads. But besides those perhaps glaring differences, you really do get options with the LaFerrari. It's not all just mindless, spine-tingling speed 24/7. I always marvel at how these engineers manage to take such a mechanical ferocity and make it so calm and usable. You simply have no idea what's going on underneath your bottom. You don't know that 57.5 pounds of high-voltage cells are bolted into the carbon tub, and that someone has taken the F12's already monstrous 740 horsepower V12 engine, added a variable length intake system and a hydroformed exhaust, and rounded it up to the magic 789 horsepower at 9,000 RPM. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what all of that means, but I do know how the car drives, and I know that it must have taken some engineering genius to come up with something so exquisite. Hours upon hours of hard work and next-level science has gone into this amazing car, and all the driver has to do is pull a paddle and press a foot down. The car has everything a Ferrari is supposed to have, but in most areas, it just does it a little better. In my personal opinion, there have been better-looking Ferraris. I'd put the 488 GTB and the F12, and well, the 250 GTO as well over the LaFerrari as far as the eye test is concerned. But hey, it's still better-looking than the Enzo. And I mean, it's still a Ferrari, so who am I to complain about how it looks? All in all, the LaFerrari is one of my favorite cars I've ever had the pleasure of driving. It's certainly a car worth of the LaFerrari title. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know if you're enjoying Mr. Luxury's Garage, and feel free to suggest any cars you'd like me to review. As always, I'm Mr. Luxury. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Pip pip, did doodly do.